Just a quick address to the audience before this video properly begins. Very recently, the channel actually got fully monetized, which was a huge moment. The goal eventually with the ad revenue and Ko-fi donations are really just to pay Sam, my editor, and break even. Because I would like to be able to make money off these videos, I am going to be splitting the opening intros that use copyrighted music into just their own video, so it will not be a part of the main video. Now, because I know people love these things, and trust me, so do I, I'm still going to be making them, obviously, or paying Sam to do so. So this video, if you haven't seen the little teaser, absolutely has one. It just will be released before this. So if you didn't see that, go look on the channel. It should be up there now. I don't like to think that I'm, greedy or anything for wanting this, but I am broke. So whatever little money I can get from this channel or my Ko-fi, it would very much be appreciated. All right, love you. Primer start now. The date is September 29th, 2002, and the occasion is Pride 22 in Nagoya Rainbow Hall. At this point in the promotion, the Shute Box stable is thriving, with the axe murderer himself, Vanderlei Silva, leading the charge, followed by his up-and-coming comrades, Mauricio Shogun Hua, and one of the men in the ring tonight, Anderson the Spider Silva. Albeit only 9-1 in mixed martial arts at the time of this bout, Silva would go on to be the undisputed greatest of all time at 185 in the UFC, Crimea River Adesanya, at least until, that is, our hero Dricus du Plessis surpasses him. He reached a level of dominance at his peak you only see an overpowered video game protagonist, defending the middleweight title a record 10 times, going up to 205 to knock out former light heavyweight champ Forrest Griffin because fuck you, that's why, and allegedly definitely triangle choking the unbeaten Chael Sonnen at the very last second. Now all of this you would know if you're an MMA fan, or watched Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, the excellent John Boyce and Felix Biederman documentary that needs no introduction, but you probably haven't seen anything from his early days in Japan. Though not yet at his peak form, Anderson Silva is one of the most deadly men on the planet, having smashed the previously unbeaten Hayato Sakurai in Shudo before joining his stablemates in Pride. He's a rising star that needs opponents to annihilate in order to look good, and in true Pride fashion, he's across the ring from a pro wrestler, with a record of 2-10 and a tentative grasp on the rules of MMA. His ring name is Alexander Otsuka, a tribute to his idol Russian Greco-Olympian Alexander Karelin, and he's about to do something inexplicable. No, he's not going to win. This isn't that kind of story. But with enough psycho-determination, he might just go the distance despite being finished in 7 out of his 10 losses. With a beautifully timed single leg, Otsuka takes Silva to the ground, narrowly avoiding triangle attempts before giving up his back to Silva, who alternates between attempting chokes and beating the piss out of him for the rest of the round. Otsuka gets battered in the body before some decent control time in the second, and initially sees success in the third round before getting caught with a TPE bar. Just as he's looking to tap, the round expires and Silva wins the decision. Despite looking like he had absolutely no business being there aside from his takedowns, his ape strength and determination kept him from being submitted or knocked out, showing that stubbornness is a decent base for MMA. What this little vignette is meant to illustrate is the weirdness and strange warrior honor code of Alexander Otsuka. Trained by Yoshiaki Fujiwara, he bounced around shoot style and bachi promotions in the late 90s and early 2000s, and still wrestles today in fun old man tag action mostly. He normally wears a singlet, cosplaying as his hero, and very occasionally dresses in a thong for an unhinged and poorly aged comedy gimmick named Otoko Sakari that is, quote, a bisexual, sex addict wrestler. Finally, a wrestling character for guys like me. That character once participated in a best of 7 series that ended in a pubes versus pubes match. No, really. That aside, he's incredibly talented, with his amateur wrestling acumen adding to his authenticity and his immense technical abilities complemented by his completely psychotic pain tolerance and a willingness to go outside the box when necessary. In true shoot-style fashion, he also ventured into MMA to get his ass kicked, continually showing up to Japanese MMA promotions and getting pulverized, all while having the best pro wrestling runs of his career. He wasn't doing this for fame, he wasn't doing this for money, and he sure as hell wasn't doing this to look good. No one forced him to take this career path, but he did so because he's a massive fucking weirdo, and one that I adore. He's something of an unsung hero in a way, as his battle arts rivals Ishikawa and Ikeda rightfully get a lot of love, and he's just sort of a punchline in MMA. But today, I want to give you a taste of what's so special about this guy. He's a creep, he's a weirdo. What the hell is he doing here? We begin with a bang, against the CTE god himself, Daisuke Ikeda. There's a running joke between my co-host Waka and I that whilst Ishikawa and Otsuka were paying attention to Fujiwara's instruction during their training, Ikeda must have been off to the side watching monster trucks on the TV. As Andos points out in his excellent video about Ishikawa vs Ikeda, Daisuke is somewhat unique in that he's a massive fan of Giant Baba in the All Japan style despite being trained to shoot. How this manifests itself in his actual work is both the logic of the bachi bachi style and the fact that he loves crazy head drop bumps. Mr. Otsuka is more than happy to oblige. The match begins with some playful striking, Ikeda constantly circling away from the grappler, who manages to tag him with a right hand after ducking a kick. He fakes a shot and seems unusually confident striking until diving in on a single leg, which downs Ikeda. However, he starts throwing wild up kicks to try and get back up. At any point, when he's threatened by the technical acumen of Otsuka, Ikeda is going to respond with brutal violence. Ikeda manages to sprawl the next takedown and get to side control, but this match properly becomes an Ikeda bout as he punishes Otsuka after the rope break, hitting a headbutt and then boot, which knocks the amateur wrestler out of the fucking ring. These sort of exchanges begin to be the match's motif, with Otsuka rolling for a leg lock or shooting a takedown only to be brutally punished. Like his matches against Ishikawa, whilst he does kind of fight like a Neanderthal who took some cardio kickboxing classes, if necessary, Ikeda can reach into the bag of tricks that the Fujiwara dojo taught him. Otsuka here is the quintessential underdog, with this unassuming, almost innocent presence as he tries to weather the storm of violence that is the future Futen warlord. After a back take to a near triangle choke for Otsuka, we get the obligatory bachi bachi leg lock bit, with Ikeda employing the high IQ maneuver known as kicking your opponent in the face in order to escape. What's most impressive throughout the opening minutes to me is the fluidity of Otsuka's grappling. Speaking as someone who's done a fair amount of shoot grappling, at least for a wrestling video essayist, the level of smoothness you see in his takedowns and transitions are incredible. He also very intelligently tries to keep Ikeda guessing, catching him with a punch and then snapping Ikeda into a front headlock, where he attempts something that looks very similar to a Darce or Bravo choke before alligator rolling. I've been informed that the catch wrestling variation of that choke that Otsuka was likely taught is known as the screw choke, which is actually way more descriptive, so good on you, catch wrestlers. Things immediately get more frenetic after Ikeda gets a rope break, as the spots play out more and more quickly. Otsuka can't hold Ikeda down as long as before, and Ikeda starts finding his shots on the feet, slowly picking apart the Karelin fanboy over the course of the middle stretch of the match. No amount of logic Otsuka tries to impose on this man seems to work, as we're now in the domain of a madman who wants to brawl ringside and go for huge kicks. Ikeda is now fully a bully, sadistically beating down his opponent and never giving him room to breathe. The finishing stretch is really cool to me, partially because of the realism, as much like when someone gets rocked in a real MMA fight, Otsuka starts shooting takedowns he has no chance of actually securing, just to try and slow down the onslaught. Time and time again, Ikeda counters the takedown by grabbing an underhook until he circles to the back and bang! Backdrop driver. All seems to be lost until Otsuka wheels himself up with fighting spirit, and hits a dropkick straight to the fucking head of his grounded foe. He tries to pull Ikeda into a crossface before calling it audible, smashing Ikeda into the ground with a backdrop suplex. Ikeda can't answer the 10 count, and just like that, Otsuka has won. It comes off as genuinely surprising the first time you watch the match, even knowing the result, and is a great introduction to the sport and violence of Bachi Bachi. 4.25 stars. Welcome aboard the UFO, or the Universal Fighting Arts Organization, the short-lived side hustle of Antonio Inoki, which asked the question, what if you did a Yukai-style promotion, but with this typical sprinkling of Inoki's weird pet project workers in there? It's a weird prelude to both IGF and proper peak Inokiism in the early 2000s, with a few shoot fights on the same card as actual pro wrestling. Well, alleged shoot fights. Sayama would leave fairly early on, probably due to standard Sayama shenanigans, but while he was there he put on some fun bouts, one of which being with our weird little guy. This particular match comes in the middle of the card, right after a shampoo ad, and it's at this point I will address the outfit that Sayama has brought. Otsuka has his typical titties out singlet look, but the man known as Tiger Mask has decided to compete in the thrilling combination of regular Tiger Mask pants that come up way too high, a t-shirt, MMA gloves, and also he's not wearing the mask despite bringing it to the ringside with him, which is because another Tiger Mask is opening up the card. Okay? After a handshake, each man begins operating exactly as you're accustomed to. The feline striker trotting across the perimeter of the ring, dancing with playful footwork and hand fighting as he feints, whereas the lumbering Otsuka sort of hunches menacingly at him, walking him down while trying to project the experience of all 3 days of kickboxing he's assumably taken. This story is going to become one that you remember if you've seen my Fujiwara vs Super Tiger video. Otsuka wants to grapple, and Tiger would very much prefer not to. What proceeds from this point is an incredibly fun, frenetic, and almost silly little exhibition that's almost slapstick in the quick nature of the violence, but nonetheless a good waste of 7 minutes if there ever was one. There are some unique wrinkles to this match, however brief, with a threat of ground and pound actually being posed, as in most Yukai promotions it was either legal or just unsportsmanlike, with Otsuka framing to throw ground and pound, and Sayama trying to stay chest to chest in order to present it. Otsuka even performs a Tozy stack or Fujiwara cradle pass to eliminate the guard of Sayama, but Mr. Kitty Cat uses a rolling pin to get back up. The struggle and weight of the grappling also makes it feel particularly naturalistic, as Sayama sandbags Otsuka on a German suplex, which in turn makes it look even better as Alexander deadlifts him. Whether this is Sayama being a dick as he wants to do, or intentionally smart is unclear, but I appreciate it nonetheless. This sort of dynamic reoccurs throughout until eventually Otsuka gets the rolling leg lock that forces Sayama to tap. This match is really everything I want in a weird pseudo IGF match, with an emphasis not only on typical shoot style realism, but more like actual MMA realism with the aforementioned framing for ground and pound. With some theatrical exceptions, this really does feel like a worked MMA fight, and it's sort of a fun palate cleanser in the realm of shoot style. 3.25 stars.
A delightful matchup. Everything that makes the style of Bachi Bachi so endearing and engaging to me by the absolute best in the style. Very few people can go hold for hold with Yuki Ishikawa quite like the Dyed Butcher, Alexander Otsuka, and because of that, the grappling and scrappiness of which each man trades a hold looks and feels so fierce, giving each hold weight when it's being applied. Otsuka has a lot of creative counters here to slip out of Ishikawa's holds, using the rope as leverage to flip out of Ishikawa's leg hold, and being able to slip out of Ishikawa's leg lock and reverse it into a triangle. All of this visually illustrates how Otsuka is every bit on the level of Ishikawa on the mat and can trade holds just as well as he can, even establishing solid ring IQ later in the match by dragging Ishikawa by the waist from the ropes all the way to the center of the ring before applying his hold so Ishikawa can't get a rope break. which isn't to say that Otsuka rests on his grappling to gain an advantage, as the match doesn't take long to get nasty. Otsuka unloading some massive headbutts to frustrate Ishikawa, as well as use his freak athleticism to hit dropkicks, a standing Rana, and a giant swing, showing Otsuka's impeccable depth and range as a wrestler, all of which makes Otsuka something of a platonic ideal of what Battle Arts is. Otsuka isn't just presenting himself as a legit shooter who can exchange nasty holds and throw absolute heaters, but one who is willing to experiment with pro wrestling in and of itself, to show what can be done and what can be effective in a legitimate contest. And given how the match is so stripped down to the barest essence of holds and strikes, when something like his giant swing or Rana gets hit, it feels so unexpected and exciting. Yuki Ishikawa, for his part, is no slouch in proving how athletically impressive and incredibly strong he is, breaking out of a triangle hold with an awesome one-arm deadlift powerbomb and executing a wonderful armbar off the second rope. But this is Yuki Ishikawa we're talking about, and one of his best qualities in any match he's in is just how gritty and believable his strikes and holds are. Probably because he's actually throwing live rounds, but his punches are incredible, and land with a sickening thud across Otsuka's skull, and puts so much struggle and effort into every hold. Like, look at the way he tries to pull off a Saito suplex. He's doing everything he can to lift and rip and punch Otsuka from the safety of the ropes to land it. Alongside Otsuka's urgency to escape it, it helps make the move feel more devastating, as the amount of effort being used by both parties makes the move feel like it could turn the tide of the whole match, instead of, in other matches, what would be a transition spot. Speaking of urgency, Ishikawa takes great care into making every little opportunity one to capitalize on a sick hold that could get him the victory. Watch the way he tries to go for the Kimura, only to spot Otsuka's leg being free and immediately jump to them to get an ankle lock. Great grappling isn't just the hold, it's the visualization of a wrestler thinking their way in and out of the hold to find a counter. It's the constant motion, the sense of urgency, and the application of the hold all working in tandem that makes the quote-unquote physical game of chess so enthralling. And few people understand that on a bone-deep level, like Ishikawa as well as Otsuka. Trying to get a submission is fine and dandy until Otsuka goes for the tactful strategy of dropping you on your dome with suplexes and one of the most insane looking Fire Thunder drivers you'll see today. And once he continues to pour on the devastation with a pair of dragon suplexes and a tiger suplex, the strategy becomes clear that he'll rely on bombing Ishikawa into the mat for a knockout victory as a statement of his raw power. Unfortunately for Otsuka, he goes to the well one too many times with his suplexes, and Ishikawa is able to pry his grip off and trap his arm into a Kimura lock to seal Otsuka's fate and make him pay for his overindulgence in 16 minutes and 47 seconds. Otsuka never tapping to the ace as a consummate reminder of just how damn tough he is. Like I said in the beginning, I love this match. Every hold is tight and looks excruciating. All the strikes from punches to headbutts are crisp and are all thrown with genuine heat and land with pure emotion. And what's in between is a lot of uniqueness that makes Battle Arts so beloved by its fan base, with Otsuka's utilization of pro wrestling moves and Ishikawa's creative counters. Not just the ideal match to get someone into Battle Arts, but more specifically, Alexander Otsuka. He's just a beast here. He's able to balance his pure mat work with pro wrestling flashiness and never once feels out of place for a contest like this. More like he's trying to experiment with what works and capitalize on it. Case in point, his suplexes are so incredibly stiff looking that they all look like they'd collapse the neck of any normal man, and the sheer speed and efficiency of which he hits them highlights the pure athleticism and strength he possesses. It's always a pleasure to speak on Battle Arts as a promotion, as one of the most unique and passionate displays of wrestling to ever exist. And in the case of Otsuka, I'll never stop singing the praises of just how wild, powerful, and skilled the Diet Butcher and Bold Battler was as one of the promotion's finest competitors. Long live Alexander Otsuka, and may Battle Arts never die.
Hello, my name is Just Taking a Walk, and welcome to Wrestling Corner. This is ambience from my real home. Jeeves, you're doing a great job. Keep playing that, young man.
Thank you, sir.
Today, I will be talking about Mitsuhiro Matsunaga versus Alexander Otsuka. Now, as you've probably heard, Alexander Otsuka is a weird guy. From his bizarre titty singlet, to his escapades in Pride, to his very strange athleticism. He might be strange, but he has a clear sense of morals. Now, across from him in this match is a man without morals. Mitsuhiro Matsunaga, a deathmatch king in his own right, but is in out of his depth in battle arts, a almost shoot promotion. With King's Road logic, he has to fight dirty in almost every single match he's in, stabbing people in the forehead, throwing fireballs in their eyes. In third thing, this match is a culmination of Matsunaga running rampant on the promotion, causing issues, throwing Yuki Ishikawas into spiked nails. He truly was an asshole at this time. No disrespect to Mr. Matsunaga, your steak is delicious. The match begins with a blitz from Alexander Otsuka, smashing, grabbing, choking the death into Matsunaga. But there's a sense that Matsunaga might be fighting fair today. He seems to be hesitant whenever Otsuka rushes him. There's sort of a worry. You almost feel bad for him. Despite everything he's done, maybe he wants to fight a good fight against Otsuka. Maybe it's brought the love of the promotion into him. He even tries to shake his hand. It's emotionally affecting. You know, such disrespect of honor in this beautiful sport. It's a shame. Otsuka accepts that handshake, and they begin a new match, as if to forget all of the brawling and all of the destruction, and to just have one good bachi battle. But Matsunaga can't even do that. He can't stand the fact that Otsuka is more athletic, more powerful, more honest. So what does he do? Well, when he gets backed up into a corner, he tosses a fireball directly into Otsuka's eyes, blinding him. And then he begins stabbing, and stabbing, and stabbing, and stabbing again at his forehead, bleeding every which way. It's saddening that a man can dive so deep into depravity that he can't even have a simple good match. Good and honest, I should say. Now, Alexander Otsuka does manage to break free of this horrible dragon. He manages to stab and stab back. It's very cathartic watching him take revenge on this absolute monster. But it still leaves me sad. The fact that he was willing to trick Otsuka to get a simple easy win. It's sad. But in the end, the good guys win, bad guys lose, and everybody in the room clapped. I give this match 4.5 stars. Thank you. I have been just taking a walk, and you have been happy to watch this segment. Jeeves, thank you. You can turn that off now. Have a good rest of your day.
Far from what one's initial idea of a match between these two might entail, with some opening out, feeling out process via grappling, Tamura goes straight for the kill, perhaps trying to end his night early after already having to wrestle, and drops Otsuka with a head kick that's genuinely jarring and unexpected. Otsuka, however, ain't no joke, and his strength advantage allows him to bully Tamura into the corner, chaining a body lock takedown into rapid submission attempts as the former Lord of Rings reacts, no doubt getting PTSD from his wars with Volkan. Otsuka is completely smothering for this, and displays a part of grappling you don't often see in pro wrestling, which is pressure. Pressure-based grappling often isn't as cinematic, with a lot of prone sweating. And there's a reason why some lame people look down on pressure passes in BJJ. But here Otsuka makes it look so fun, passing the Tamura's guard with a half crab that I've actually used, and smashing the company's owner into the ground in mid-submission attempts. Everything Otsuka does looks fluid and beautiful, with some highlights being a fireman's carry that cuts off Tamura's attempt to scramble back to the feet, and chaining a double wrist lock into an armbar when Kiyoshi attempts to grab a single leg. A rear naked choke attempt also forces Tamura to get to the ropes. Quite frankly, Otsuka is straight up just a better grappler, as his mixture of amateur wrestling and some crafty catch-as-catch-can/BJJ tactics like a triangle armbar foil anything Tamura can try to cook up on the mat. Knowing what he has to do, Tamura takes to the feet and unleashes more kick combos from his lethal left leg, dropping Otsuka multiple times. Knowing he's fading, Alexander rushes Kiyoshi into the corner, unleashing palm strikes and a drop kick, but it's too little too late, and the combination of a liver kick, then the coup de grace to the head finishes him off. Tamura has beaten the Bachi Bachi Warrior, but not by being the rings prodigy who armbarred Volkan. No, the bald-headed freak had proved to be the superior grappler even in defeat. An incredibly fun showing from both men, with Otsuka looking incredibly dynamic. 3 3/4 stars. For this project, I decided to reach out to Yuki Ishikawa, and the absolute legend wrote me a little piece on Otsuka, so for this next bit, these are his words. When we established Battle Arts, Otsuka was a green boy. We had to leave Fujiwara-gumi soon after he debuted. His wrestling style was unique, more realistic in an amateur sense, not like pro wrestling in which it seemed so cooperative. When he suplexed you, he deadlifted you, no help. We really need these kinds of things. Real hard-hitting kicks, real submissions, real throws, real emotion. His moves, while common in Olympic-style wrestling, fill the niche in Battle Arts as it's uncharacteristic of the pro style. I think the first turning point of Alex's career was the Tako Choming Taikukan Taco City Management show. It was a really small show, so the audience was just 200. At this point, Battle Arts was a no-name entity. Both Otsuka and the show would be a spark towards the advance of Battle Arts. The match was Green Alexander Otsuka and Yuki Ishikawa versus Daisuke Ikeda and Takeshi Ono. Alex's spark and Battle Arts spark were interlocked. The match was extraordinarily awesome. Ikeda and Ono, their hard kicks and aggressive attacks crushed and bullied Alex. Alex's unbreakable heart, his sad expressions, and desperation captivated the audience. That 200-person audience's excitement was just as good as 2,000 people. Then finally, Alex came back from the abyss of despair, using his big suplexes, big throws, and his amazing German suplex. The audience was excited like crazy. It was the birth of the legend that was the Battle Arts Taco Show, and Ikeda and Ono named their team Team Taco. Put up with hard striking bullies and come back with a big suplex became Alex's exclusive fighting style in Battle Arts. And from then on, the green boy Alex was in charge of an essential role in Battle Arts. Many of us Battle Arts members at the time worried about entrusting Alex as a main eventer. They knew Alex's potential, but his performances were not stable yet. But I bet on him. I was convinced of it. You know the result. This is the story. While perhaps not as famous as the two Battle Arts founders, Otsuka is probably my favorite alumni from the company. Within that promotion, he's the closest thing to an absolute good guy, pressing forward with a sense of earnest determination you can't help but love, and the peak of a white meat babyface. There's something immediately endearing and likable about the way he carries himself, just a stoic athlete who loves wrestling more than anything else. He can be violent if necessary, but just watching him work the mat is a treat, and most of his matches are a brilliant display of problem solving, as he moves from position to position, attempting various submission holds or sweeping his opponent. His grappling is gorgeous, with that aforementioned fluidity that really shows you how much experience he has, and how much thought he puts into each exchange. His incorporation of amateur wrestling is also notable, as he really makes every takedown look legitimate, snatching single legs, trips, or even just mat returning his opponent. In other words, he's a goddamn savant, and it's a treat to be able to watch him ply his trade. He doesn't exactly fit cleanly into any promotion other than Battle Arts, but in his prime, he could go just about anywhere and put together a good match. All I'm left to do is to thank this shiny domed weirdo, and I hope you'll do so going forward. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or donating to my Ko-fi, which is linked on the channel page. With all the traction that's been gained from the Eddie Kingston interview, things are going quite well for this channel, and hopefully there will be another really big video covering a feud coming out in the coming weeks and or months. So thank you, goodbye, and good night.